Welcome to the Sustain, Change and Grow podcast, where we discuss questions related to climate change and sustainable personal development with experts across different fields. I'm Dilara Salahova. I am currently working at the European Central Bank on sustainable finance topics, and I would like to emphasize that this podcast is not related to my work at the ECB. Instead, it is a part of my desire and effort to raise awareness about the importance of individual actions to address current environmental issues and to bring desired changes into one's life. In this episode, I'm happy to welcome Sandra Sydow. And Sandra is a wonderful guest for this podcast, as she is committed to change the way the society sees the climate change, and she knows how to navigate the changes in her own life. Sandra had 20 plus years of successful career as a leader in the communication industry. And then about 2-3 years ago, Sandra changed her path and founded 2 companies, Why Not Now and the Climate Beach, with the aim to make a positive impact to address the climate change challenges. And also Sandra is a facilitator of Digital Collage, and we will discuss our digital footprint on climate as well. So very warm welcome, Sandra, to the Sustain Change podcast.
Good morning, Dilara. I'm very glad to be here.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you here. And let us jump directly into the topic and tell me what the Digital College is and what is your role there?
Okay, the Digital Collage is a workshop, basically, that we run over 3 hours, but it's not like every kind of workshop because it's very collaborative, first of all, and then it's based on what we call intelligence, collective intelligence. So that means that you are around 6 to 8 people around the table, and then you play with cards, a set of cards of 40 to 50 cards that you need to put in a certain order. And in this, this card, they have a back cover with some text, but not a lot, and then a front cover with visuals to help you and a title. And as a team, you need to find out the order. That's why we call it a collage. And you discover by this way the knowledge by yourself, but you're also adding your own knowledge because every one of us knows something. So after the first phase of the workshop, which is roughly 1.5 hours of understanding, you understand what are the challenges linked to the digital technology right now on the environment. Then you go into a creativity phase. So we use another part of our brain to relax a bit. And then we go into the action part and just, understand the action part. What can we do from the problem we've discovered or we've seen, or maybe not discovered because a lot of us actually know part of it.
And thank you. And so what is the purpose of this?
The purpose is to, digital is very much seen as a solution to the climate change or to the challenges that we've got around the world when we talk about sustainability. But it's not without an impact. And while the impact can be positive, the outweigh of the negative aspects of digital environment outweigh massively the positive impact, and these are not very known, unfortunately. They are very much underestimated, and we do talk a little bit about digital impact on the environment, but always bit by bit, and there isn't a real summary of all the areas that digital is impacting in not necessarily a positive way. And this is what the workshop is trying to put in place here, is to understand from a life cycle product perspective, what is the digital impact on the environment?
And can you unpack it a little bit? So for our listeners, what is really the digital impact of our everyday day life is?
For that, you will need to attend a workshop, but I can give you some clues already. I think we see digital a lot as a virtual having a lot of virtual capacity. And at the same time, when we think of the impact, we think of big data, cloud, and the numerous and the volume of data we're using every day. And that could be then the real impact on the environment. But actually, this is only the tip of the iceberg. This is only a very, very small part of all the impact that is done by digital. And digital is really where when you talk about the impact of digital, we talk much more about the materiality aspect of it. How many consumer devices do we own, do we have on Earth? And when you compare that to data centers, for example, it is massively different. You have 34 billion devices, consumer devices in the world in use at the moment versus 100 million of data centers eventually. So the bulk of the problem lies really in our consumer devices. We are buying a lot of devices. We talk also about obsolescence, technical obsolescence, as well as psychological obsolescence that makes us use more and more of those devices, even if they are still functioning, they are still working, or maybe the software is out of date because the provider changed the software. So there are lots of things linked to that. And then there is two other big areas. One is the area of resources. When you need so many consumer devices, that means that you need to produce them. So there is a production element to that. When you produce, you need resources, and those resources, they are coming into depletion. So we're talking here about shortages in resources. We talk about rare metals, for example, all that you need to produce those devices. And then last but not least, you've got the recycling element. When you know that actually first to be recycled, the device needs to be collected. So the person owning a device needs to go and give it to a collection point, and then only you can recycle it. And then by recycling, it is as low as 10 to maximum 20% of capacity of recycling. The rest will go into illegal exploitation. The rest will go into incineration fields as well. So these are all the big aspects that we are tackling during that workshop that are really important when we come to digital impact. And I'm not even talking about the mental element, mental health element, which is another area again. So yes, all in all, it's roughly what you can encompass when you talk about digital impact on the environment and societal as well.
Right. So, because actually, when I was thinking about digital impact, was really about the consumption of the data. So the data storage, sending emails, watching the Netflix, etc. But you are saying that when we're talking about digital footprint, it's both the consumption of the content and the use of the services, but it is also the production of the material, right? Like computers and all the devices. Is that correct? Okay.
And that is much, much more important. When you talk about consumer devices, it takes up 60% of energy if you count in there the usage part of the consumer device, so our devices, plus the production side of it. So it's 60% in total from what digital sector is taking in terms of energy. So it's not really the data per the data centers. I think the data centers is probably a quarter of that, only 25%. Not to forget that actually the data centers have been under pressure since more than 10 years to improve their efficiency over the years, because they were in the spotlight of ecologists for a while, and their efficiency is actually very, very high at the moment, while we are increasingly adding data to every day. And I think there is another aspect I want to talk to you, Dilara. When I say the materiality is really the most important, our consumption behavior is also very important. And I want to introduce the fact of the concept of rebound effect. When you look at the expansion of technology and digital, you look at something that has gone exponentially. We talk about exponential growth, right? Mm-hmm. While doing that, and why is it like this? It's because each time we develop a new technology, let's say going to 3G to 4G, what did it allow us? It allowed us to go quicker in downloading our data. And at the same time, what it did as well is that we consume then more from it. But the aim originally from those technology is to give us efficiency and not necessarily to give us more access to more data. So interestingly, and if you think of everything in life, actually, when you get something quicker and easier, then you tend to consume more of that. And that's called the rebound effect. And that's why we try to question and make people question about our sobriety towards the consumption of data and everything else, of course, but the consumption altogether about our digital.
Right. So, but if we want to order the priorities of people to act, so the first one is really the consumption of the material, of the devices. So change less of an repair instead of buying. Think of collecting it for the recycling and make sure it is recycled in a way. It's not just giving it away somewhere. And only afterward comes the digital footprint in terms of the data consumption, right? So the Netflix, the emails, etc. And the ratio is really very much in favor of the action in terms of the materiality.
If there is one message I need to leave here in this podcast, Iliara, is that take a longer life for your device. Keep them as long as you can. That's the best action you can do, actually. But buy only if you need to. But try to, and all what you did was absolutely right, Iliara. Try to repair, try to recondition, and then if you can't make them work, or if you have some in your cupboards you're not using, then give it, share it to someone so that it's used. But the fact is that we need to produce less, we need to buy less, so that we can stop and limit that consumption that we've got at the moment, and repair and reuse what we are having already. That's super important.
Okay, and what about these giants that you already mentioned, data provider, storage, etc.
GAFAM, for example, yes.
Exactly, but also Amazon and Google, right?
It's part of it, yes. Google, Amazon, yes, yeah. Facebook, yeah.
Exactly. So they had also pressure to use green energy, right? How big is the share of the green energy in the use of these companies?
Well, they are doing, so they are claiming to do a lot, and that's true. They are trying to make their efforts into this. But I think there is a little bit more of an ethical problem behind them and behind their attitude. So they know they have to develop this, and they are on top of this. Especially Google in this area is quite far in terms of reducing their emissions. The problem we've got, and this is also linked to what's called a net zero approach. Nobody can be net zero, so that's clear. Net zero has been invented to make the companies go into that direction. It's almost impossible to be net zero. So you have to lower. It's better to talk about lower carbon strategy than a net zero strategy. And also the Shift project, which is a French organization, a think tank with lots of researchers and public as well, working on those type of challenges, have well recognized what is actually the problem of those GAFAM that we call the GAFAM, the giant ones, is that they are not reducing the use that we're making of their platforms. Their only aim remains growth. Their only aims remain that we consume more of their platform. And that is the key issue, the key ethical issue we've got, because they might do everything they can to reduce their emission, but they are on a growth path. So they are increasing their use of resources, of data, of expansion at the end. And that's the key issue. So yeah, if you're interested, you can go onto the Shift project, and they have some reports in English as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's very interesting. And it's a big dilemma, right? So they need to reduce, but then Netflix is actually punished when it doesn't get more views or more viewers to join. So
here we go.
yeah.
Here we go. And that is the challenging point and the ethical point on it. They can claim whatever they want to do in terms of lowering emission, as long as they haven't tackled their way of embracing their business model. It is still a challenge and a problem for the planet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but indeed, as you mentioned, without talking about the impact that it leaves on people's life, getting stick to the computer screens and television, etc. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, great. So now let us move a bit to you. And because I think you have a very interesting story. So you had a really big change about in your career about 3 years ago. So you left the previous successful career in marketing, obtained a degree in sustainability business management from Cambridge University, and started your own business. So what made you do all of this?
That's a very good question. Yes, I was questioning my job actually at the end before I left very much. I had a period, so I was heading a media agency at the time. I did 20 years of marketing, 10 years of marketing, and then 10 years in agencies, so advertising agencies. And leading this agency, I was asking myself a lot of questions about what next and what am I doing here and what is the purpose of my job, the real purpose of my job. And advertising is about always consuming and actually convincing everyone to consume more of whatever it is on the market. At the same time, my son, teenager back then, was asking himself a lot of questions about his future and what he will do. And of course, he asked me a lot of questions, or his parents, about what he could do, and then asked us about our job. And one day, one evening, he looked at me over the dinner table, right in the eyes, and told me, "Mom, you know, I will never do the job you're doing. I don't even understand why you're doing this job." And I think that was the last drop, just giving me the strength to say, okay, now I quit my job and I need to do something else. The second slap in my face was when he invited me to accompany him on a Greta Thunberg march in back in 2019, and he was he was holding this poster, and I was at the back looking at him and then thinking, my God, I should be the one holding this poster. He shouldn't be the one with it. I still have 20 years ahead of me. I should make the best out of my 20 years and my skills and competencies to fight for climate change. And from that point on, I promised myself to dedicate my time and all my competencies to whatever would help this challenge and this mission. I quit my job. I went back to studies, as you said, and then I decided. I explored a lot. I mean, for people in transition, that's always very interesting to hear. But I didn't know what I would do. I didn't know what my competencies could bring to the sustainability sector. So I had to first look at the sustainability sector and learn what it is exactly and how I can bring myself into it, and then explore and do projects on a voluntary basis. I did a lot. I decided to dedicate a year of voluntary work where it brought me a lot of things. And then I decided, when I found my sweet spot, that I should raise awareness, and that would be my area for the future. So now I raise awareness around climate change. I raise awareness around digital impact on the environment too, because I'm a passionate of digital. Coming from advertising, I was part of the digital transformation, so it feels close to me as well. That's my story.
No, I think it's really inspiring. And do you use the same techniques you used for advertising now to for climate change topic?
Absolutely, everything, almost, but not in a commercial way. That is much more subtle than this. But yes, that helps me a lot, and I can help a lot of people around me, because in this sector, usually you don't have communication experts, but you have experts in other areas. So I really enjoy giving recommendations and help and support to other people with this. And in a CSR department, for example, it's always quite difficult because they have a really difficult mission within the company to get their voice heard. And I really enjoy helping CSR professionals, for example, to get their voice heard, to understand what the KPI should be, how should I raise awareness, what is the right way to communicate, how to vulgarize, how to make information so accessible that the people understand the connection between science and company. Because I discovered in my exploration that the big problem between the company world and the science world is that it's very far apart, and you need to put right now science at the heart of a business. How do you do that? You need to be super accessible. You need to vulgarize the saying. I mean, an IPCC report of 4,000 pages. You need to make it really,
Yeah,
really accessible and really clear. And that's the same for everything. And the digital collage has the same aim here.
right. But the difference between sustainability issues and the classical advertising of the goods, I think, is that we make people want these goods. So, like all the psychology of the advertising works for people really longing for this good. While for sustainability, it actually requires people to make an effort, and to change, to make a change, to make an effort is something which is very difficult for people. So how can you twist it in a way to show people maybe something more attractive, or actually the other way around, something is really ugly that they should make these changes and act? How do you see it?
I think the power of communication is that you need to tell stories to people. And what you just described is what the people think exactly about changing to better behavior. It will cost me something. It will cost me efforts and eventually financially. And I don't want, because my life will be poorer. And this is wrong. And this is what we need to tell the world. And as the communication expert, we need to tell new stories. We need to open up to inspiring ways of where it leads us to. If we are better, if we are fighting climate change, it means what? It means that I'm caring more about my health, because I'm using my bike more than using my car, for example. I'm eating less meat, so it's better for my health altogether, for cardiovascularity problems, for example. I maybe use car sharing. That means that I can meet new people. It's more a socialized aspect of life that we can have. When I use less energy, then it's less on my bill. I will
Mhm.
save money. If I don't have a car, I save money too. So all these aspects need to be rewritten. And this is the power of advertising, is that you can tell stories in a way that people will understand that where they're heading to is actually much better from where they are right now. It's like imagining where we are right now. We have forgotten about the good roots we are coming from. So how to come back to the good roots and then enjoy them again? Because we are more and more disconnected. How can we be more and more connected as human beings? And this is also the part of the digital role in there. And I think there is a lot to be done. There is a great woman I follow, who is called Solitaire Townsend,
Could you
and
repeat it
she has
again?
Solitaire Townsend. She is a co-founder of a change agency, or an agency of communication as well, called Futera, and they're helping big brands to position their mission, purpose again, and understand exactly how their model can evolve and how to tell their story too. And she's very inspirational. She has written a book which is called The Happy Hero as well. If you start in this journey, Happy Hero is a very simple read, just to help you understand that making this step will make your life actually better. And she has TEDx talk as well about the advertising industry. And the advertising industry, especially in the UK, is moving now into a new area on how to reinvent themselves and their role towards fighting climate change. So taking responsibility now more and more for climate change.
Yeah, well, this is interesting and important. But then if we get back to the issue that we discussed previously, that actually companies, let's take Netflix or Facebook, they're valued for more users, for more views. How company can really change, rebrand its PR, its public, the way the public sees it, without changing its policy. But the changing the policy and the way the company works will hurt the returns, and it should actually change completely the business strategy, maybe the business model. So how does she also touch upon this, or is it really just some sort of better positioning itself in the market?
No, I think that's a good question too. I think it's not a PR challenge here. It has to be, as you said, it has to be worked from the economic model itself. You cannot just claim, and this will be seen as greenwashing very, very quickly. And they know that. So unless they rework their economic business model, they will not be able to evolve to a model that, you know, that is encompassing the planetary boundaries. And this is basically what they need to encompass to understand in their model, how do I get into the how do I respect the planetary boundaries, and how do I make sure that I move myself within those planetary boundaries. And I'm just referring to Kate Warworth here, the donut economics, which is very well done. So you can actually rework your economic model in a way that you will be able to include within your economic model those new aspects. And we'll give you one example, because I haven't cracked their model, and it's for them to crack their model and how to evolve in the future. But I will give you one other example from another sector. Let's take the sector of manufacturing and production. So every retailer, for example, with products. Let's take someone in sport, for example, Decathlon. I don't know if you know this brand, yeah. Decathlon. They are looking at a new way to support their business model. So instead of selling products, new products, they are now renting. So they have imagined a new way to rent their products, so that people just rent. If you go to camping, and only once a year, you can rent your tents, you can rent all the accessories, and then come back and give them back. So that's one aspect on how to reinvent your model to reduce the number of production or new products you put onto the market, and go into a more circular economy model. So that's one example. Another example could be made with washing machine, for example. So Fnac in France is doing this. They have started to use a kind of contract that you have year long. You pay a little amount every month, and actually you're on a rent for your electronic or electric device, or for example a washing machine, the bigger ones, or a fridge even. And the good side of it is that you get always maintenance, so they can get repaired. You have an expert to help you. You have a customer service, and I think we will move to this functionality or service-driven model more and more, to avoid and to come into this circular economy thinking.
Yeah, those are good examples indeed. Though there are, I guess, some industries which will be much more difficult to change. Well, again, the content based. But actually also, as you're a digital expert, what about, you mentioned this word earlier, this programmed obsolescence. How do you, is it addressed? Like, are there things moving forward in a better way? Because
Yes.
this is a big issue.
Yes, exactly. So yes, there are some laws now coming out in Europe, at least, encouraging or asking the providers, first of all, to indicate now a repairability index on their product, and then since this year to be able to repair your old machines, or to give you the pieces to repair them as well. So that's a huge step ahead for that. In terms of software obsolescence, yes, there are things being done right now. It's different in the world, in every country, but Europe is a bit more advanced, I think, on this, through this law, which is anti-waste and circular economy law, which is evolving year by year, and they're increasing actually their regulations year by year. It has started, I think, in 2021, and every year they are including more regulations into that. So actually providers now have to comply to those regulations, which will avoid waste, will allow for more circularity within the digital sector.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. No, and
lately,
really
just
great.
to add that lately, the plugs, the USB plugs, they have been now unified. So normally we should have, an Apple cannot sell anymore a specific USB for your phone cable, but it will be the same for everyone. I think this is where we need to be open-minded when we go onto our sustainability path and getting to solutions, is that we need to be gentle with ourselves. We can't make things perfect. And this is what we've been doing and waiting for since 30 years, not doing anything because thinking, no, I will do the wrong thing. You said it, it's systemic. It's a systemic approach. So everyone will do their bit. And we need to accept that we will fail on the way. But we need to act. We need to start now. We need to make our way towards a better, more sustainable world right now, and accepting that we will make errors. But those errors are, for me, like building a bridge to where we are now, emitting, using 80% of fossil fuels for everything we do every day, to building a bridge to 2050 where we have halved those emissions with trying, testing, failing, and coming finally to a compromise where we will be able to manage this and our and the challenge.
Right. And so from your own experience, for people in transition or who have to go through the changes, what would be your suggestions or just thoughts that you would like to share with, given your experience?
Yes, transition is be mindful with yourself, be patient as well. I think that what I would say. I was extremely impatient in all my career. I always wanted to do to the next career path. And when I quit my job 5 years ago, I thought, oh my God, I have a blank sheet of paper. I absolutely don't know what I will do. That was for the first time in my entire life. And I was completely confused, and it was a very hard time. And then I come across a book I should have read earlier, because I'm not too much into those personal development books. But there is one book that really helped me, just knowing that I'm not on my own on this path, and there were other people, and there are other people on this who need time for this transition and who need to explore as well, giving examples. And it's Working Identity. So this book is called Working Identity. It's written by a lady from the INSEAD school in Paris, It's in English, and yes, I guess you can give the details after. So this book was really helpful in terms of just reassuring me. Yes, it takes time to find a new path, and it's authorized and it's allowed and it's good to explore new things, to understand what will be our next step. And it's okay to say that you took a wrong turn to make a good turn after. That's fine, because it helps you then build your path to where you want to be. So that one thing. And the other thing is that I was lucky to find a very good course on sustainability, which you mentioned at the beginning. It's the Business Sustainability Management course offered by the Cambridge University. It's probably the best investment I made so far in my education, because it's I'm not a scientist, and I had no intention to go into climate change from a scientific point of view, and it helped me really to connect both the science and the business aspect, and this is where I really wanted to be. So for people like me, I think this course is brilliant. It's only 8 weeks. It's quite intense, but you can do it with another job as well, and then you feel much more empowered to talk about sustainability and know about what you're talking.
Thank you very much, Sandra, for those insights. And I usually ask a question about the 2 most inspiring books, but I guess you already named them. So I would say it's The Happy Hero and the what is this with the identity?
Working identity.
Working identity.
Yes, exactly. There is also another book I really like. It's this one. It's The Future We Choose. So for those who are already on the path of sustainability, it's written by Christiana Figueres. Christiana Figueres has worked with the United Nations, and is a wonderful person, Christiana Figueres. She is the one who helped tremendously to sign the Paris Agreement at the COP21 in 2015. They put huge efforts, and I know that she played a really big role in this. And her stand, which I really love, is optimism. It's stubborn optimism. We need to be optimists to carry on with this mission. And it's her main message. And here she gives hope with this book, The Future We Choose. So I can also recommend this one. And to follow her and her movement, the global optimism, to be collectively. The last point into this, into all of this, that since I changed and I moved career, I understood how important collective plays a role. You cannot be on your own on this. You have to be with others.
Well, this is absolutely. And now more than ever, we should move from the individualism to collective action and collective support, because it's only together that we can find this solution. Thank you very much, Sandra. I think that was really interesting. Your story is amazing, and it will be very useful, I guess, for everyone to hear it. And all the best with all your projects.
Thank you very much, Didiara.